time to tackle this low-life Scott Galloway, who is attacking men relentlessly in his podcast while pretending he's on their side. Now, America abandons its unremarkable young men, right? Let's try and get through this, guys. Let's hear this monster.
Who breaks up fights at bars? Big, strong men. Who starts fights? Insecure people who don't like themselves.
So, do you see what's going on there? It says, if you're a big, strong man, you're a defender. But if you're a little weak guy, you're insecure, right? Right.
So I think strength immediately moves to protection. And then the third thing,
serving, right? Guys, if you're a big, strong guy, if you're big and strong, do you want to be like everyone's servant? Do you want to be the police when you go out to the bars? In the first, 12 seconds, the guy has exposed himself for what he is, what he actually wants for the average young guy. He wants servitude. He wants slavery, actually.
and I get more pushback on this, is procreation.
Not on this show.
Yeah, procreation, right? It's always this, what the guys say at the Pro Male Collective, biological reductionism, right? We're supposed to fight our animal instincts in every other case except when guys are involved. And then we're just a bunch of animals. We can't do anything about it, right?
You won't, Scott. Don't worry.
The New York Times, wow, what a disgusting publication. What an anti-male publication. And this is interesting times, guys, right? Men failing, it's so interesting. No, not men failing. Society harming men. Interesting.
What are men for?
We don't need to be for anything. We're human beings. We live for ourselves. So in this numbnuts here, he just admitted that he sees men as not even human, right? What are they showing? They show them working and warring, right? Working and warring. That's the life of a slave. And all these warring guys, what are they doing? They're murdering other men. They're murdering their own kind. Who's benefiting from all this? The women.
We've been having a debate for a while about the falling fortunes of the modern man and the difficult conditions facing young men in particular.
The single biggest killer of men under the age of 40 is themselves. It's suicide.
Boys and men are falling behind and
themselves. If they're taking their lives, it's not because they become weak in any way. It's because society has cranked up its hostility. They're always blaming the men for what other people are doing to them.
several different areas.
There's about 1 million fewer young men now enrolled in college as compared to 2011.
Are they?
Yeah, of course, because college is hostile to them and they're being kicked out of college. How many guys have lost their seat at college because some woman made up a lie about him?
Radicalized and toxic. And just what is masculinity?
So guys, by the way, guys, when they say radicalized and toxic, what they mean is some guys are actually standing up for themselves. When you get abused, you just take it.
Anyway.
Most masculine I've ever felt is after the birth of my first child.
The definition of true manhood is love, protect, cherish, defend, provide for your wife and for your family.
And the masculine.
Yeah, be a little slave. Now, here they're bringing up Andrew Tate. They're always bashing him, and yet they can't wait to hear what he has to say.
In perspective is you have to understand that life is war.
My guest this week has a lot of thoughts on this subject. And a lot.
By the way, Tate doesn't war in anything. He just goes around scamming men, just like Galloway and this guy here.
A lot of advice for our fellow men. He's a professor at NYU's Stern School of Business. He's the impresario behind the Prof G media universe. And he's the author of a new book that answers all of these questions. Notes on Being a Man.
There you go, guys. This guy who wants to live off your pain. This cretin wants to leech off your pain. He's selling his books. And notice that one, the sad look on this guy's face. He does not love his life. He does not love himself. He's an insecure man. That's why he always has that droopy dog look on his face. He's never smiling. He's never, I gotta admit, most people who attack men are smug. He's not even that.
Scott Galloway, welcome to Interesting Times. I think at this point, probably most people listening or watching are familiar with some of the basic information on the condition of young men in America. And so,
no, they're not. No, they are not. Because every discussion is like this one, where they're blaming the guys for what society is doing to them.
I want to not dive into that data, but start at a more personal level. You are a teacher, you're a father, you're a podcaster. Just in your personal life.
Hey guys, he gained a status and he uses it to bash his fellow man. The younger generation, no doubt. What a punk. Scott Galloway, you were a punk.
How did you first get the sense that young men in America were in a kind of trouble?
Well, it was a specific moment that kind of sort of, I don't know, lit the candle, if you will, and that was
Galloway, you're the answer to this all. Shouldn't you be happy? Right? Or is it scamming your fellow man leaves a bad taste in your mouth?
It was during COVID, and a young man named Alex Kearns was trading options on Robinhood, and he got what ultimately ended up being an errant message saying that he owed them thousands of dollars. And he spent most of the night sending panicked emails to an unresponsive Robinhood who, wants to scale so there's no humans. And then in the morning, he decided that he didn't want to leave his family with that burden, and he took his own life. And you see this kid, Ross.
See, it's not about himself. It's always about somebody else. And this is what manhood is, everyone. This is what you either provide for someone else because you don't matter, or you take your own life, right?
Kids?
I have a number of kids, yes.
Well, occasionally.
By the way, some of those kids are going to be boys. So this is the life track Galloway is hoping for any sons. Just serve someone else and then take your life.
See something and you see a picture of a kid and you're like, that's my boy.
Yeah. And you have two sons, right?
Yeah, I have two sons.
Yeah, there you go. So he has two slaves. Two slaves where he's going to cause them, if not death, even worse, they're going to live in pain. This is what this cretin hopes for you. People don't give a shit about children, guys. Fathers, they care about mommy. They might care about their daughters to a certain degree, but their sons, not at all.
And that happened to me, and it was very, occasionally something, and this is the power of media, it just kind of reached into my soul and grabbed me. And I just started doing some research on it, and I just found, a lot of data about the challenges facing young men, in this instance, the kind of...
Why would you need the data? Why don't you just ask guys personally, right? Because he doesn't want to deal with these peasants.
Unrelenting foe of big tech that every day is trying to figure out 1 million times a second a way to get you on a screen 1 more second.
Well, there you go. It's big tech, guys. It's not people's natural hostility to men and boys. Big tech, it wants you on the screen. So in other words, you can see where this is aiming, right? It's going to keep guys off the screen. Entertainment and typing your opinion, that's going to be for women and girls only. Guys, you're just going to be working all the time. Sorry.
And the young, immature prefrontal cortices of men is especially vulnerable. And big...
Now, he's posted a lie. Thank you. Thankfully, Shield for Men came up with this. It's a myth that boys lag behind in brain development when it comes to girls. Right. I'll put this in the description box and use it to defend yourselves. So he's telling a bold-faced lie. Galloway, you are a liar. That's what you are. And to think that this guy can show his face in public.
Tech, which is 40% of our S&P right now, essentially has one job, and that's to separate or sequester young men from their relationships, which is key to a mammal's.
See, it's not like women are deselecting guys. It's the big tech. And they need guys sequestered. Why? Right? And all these guys in big tech, they're guys too, right? So this guy's claiming that men want to separate other men from their relationships. If so, why? Right.
Health. And I worry that we're evolving a new species of asocial, asexual males. And if you
Well, there you go. So if men are like unhappy, it's because they're asocial, antisocial, right? It's not because society's bashing them, right? And asexual, you see, it's more of that masculinity bullshit that we in the pro-male collective have dumped months ago, long ago, right? Because all it is a collar. You can't be an asexual man. It's basically a fill-in for effeminate man. He doesn't want to say effeminate, right? Because, they want to support the gay men, right? The gay men attack dogs for the LGBT. So we'll say asexual. But actually, there's nothing wrong with being asexual. Other than an asexual man is more inclined not to bother being a slave to the opposite sex. That's what his issue is.
go back 4 years, it is receiving a lot of attention now, which is really rewarding. But it wasn't 4 years ago. When I went to the Democratic Convention in Chicago just a couple of years ago, I saw a parade of special interest groups articulating all the very real issues different special interest groups still face. I didn't hear one word about the cohort that has fallen further faster than any cohort in American history, and that's young men. And
well, there you go. Exactly. So people are just hostile to men, period. And these special interest groups, right? They'll include men as well, right? So like, gay men, they're still men. Non-white men, they're still men too. And they still suffer. So they're still not being addressed just because they drop into or join another interest group, right?
And so that was kind of the moment where I started going down this rabbit hole, if you will.
Yeah. So take us back in time in your own life, because your book about this subject is partially analysis and prescription, but a lot of it is personal story and memoir, right? So you're 61, right? Yeah.
So he and I are the same age, right? So we're both like late Gen Xers, right? So these are the guys, right? Like all you Gen Zs and millennials, right? You're the blame, but this is the age of person who's attacking you, right?
An exceptionally well-preserved 61, I must say. And so you came of age about 15 years before I did, so in the 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think was different in the male experience then?
Well, first, that's a generous question. I relate
to be honest, guys, I don't think there was a lot of difference. Men have always been shoved into wars and provider positions. The only difference is that it is a matter of degrees. It just ramped up. By the way, Galloway, I hate your guts. Just thought I'd let you know that.
a lot to these struggling young men because I think I could have very easily, with a few wrong turns or bad decisions or lack of infrastructure, could have really come off the tracks. My father was not involved in my life. I was raised by a single immigrant mother who lived in...
Wow, why was that? Was it a case where your single immigrant mother ditched him? Your father wasn't an immigrant then, right? You say your mother's an immigrant and the father wasn't. Was this a case where she got together with your father for a green card and then she got rid of him as soon as she got it? There's a lot of stuff not being said here.
A secretary. I feel like
Oh, by the way, she was a secretary, guys. She didn't blow them out of the water by becoming a brain surgeon, did they? Did she, right? It's not because she was being held back either. It's because women go for the easy jobs, right? They don't need purpose. It's only us male slaves that need purpose. Women just live their lives.
America back then, Ross, loved the unremarkable. I got assisted lunch. I always say I'm a product of big government. And by the way, this is not a humble brag.
It's going to be a humble brag.
I'm a remarkably talented person. I may be even a 1%er, but that puts me in a room with 75 million other people. My life, my wealth, my opportunities are well above the 75 millionth most blessed person.
So this is what you get, guys. This is an older man. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and what does he do with it? He attacks and trashes you. That's what he does with his life. This is his purpose in life, everyone. Attacking the younger generation. What a bum. What a freaking bum.
Reverse engineer those things to several factors that aren't my fault. First and foremost, the irrational passion, my well-being of my mother. But more than that, maybe even I was smart enough to be born in America, and especially.
How can you be smart enough to be born in America? He's making it sound like he accomplished something from the womb. Galloway, you lucked out. Why are you saying smart enough?
Especially California in the 60s as a white heterosexual male. I got assisted lunch. I applied to UCLA, Ross, when it had
As a white male, guys, listen to the attack. This is how they try and divide us. All you men of color, whether you're Hispanic or Asian or Black, are you having any better time than the white guys? Are you not having the exact same issues as us? Right. So for him to mention white men is what he's trying to do here is divide and conquer. This man is complete scum, by the way.
74% admissions rate. And I was one of the 26% that didn't get in. And I was installing shelving for what seemed like a lot of money at the time, $18 an hour, and I came home one day.
That would have been a lot of money for the time. I'd like to make $18 an hour now.
And I just broke down. And I said to my mom, I was living with my mom, this is my life. And not that there's anything wrong with vocational work, but I wanted to be a doctor.
There's nothing wrong with it, but there's something wrong with it. It's not good enough for me. It's not high status enough, right?
Time at that moment, I thought I was going to be I had aspirations to be a pediatrician. And she said, well, is there something we can do? And I found out there's something called an appeal process, and I wrote an appeal.
So guys, you want to be a pediatrician, but instead what did he become? He becomes a scammer. Well, you've really fallen, haven't you? But it beats, packing shelves, right? That's for loser men.
And the truth has a nice ring to it. I said,
A winner scams his fellow man and provides nothing good for society.
I want to be a doctor, and I'm installing shelving right now. And I remember the call, someone from the admissions office at UCLA called me and said, you're not qualified, but you're a native son of California, and we're going to give you a shot. And I got...
So notice, guys, he says he's got all these skills, he's got all these talents, but now he's contradicting himself and saying he wasn't good enough to get into these schools. And he basically got a leg up.
I got through UCLA with showing up with a 1984 Honda Accord and $60 and $4,500 in student loans. My tuition was $1,200 a year. And then I graduated. I rewarded the generosity of California taxpayers and the regents of UC.
So how are young men failing when the institution has become too expensive for them? He's admitting he got in when things were cheap. And he was accepted when, according to him, he was subpar. So colleges, universities, they were letting guys in and not burdening them with heavy duty debt. So again, how is it you failing when colleges do that?
With a 2.27 GPA, which just for your listeners, Ross, is not very good.
It's not it's above a 2.
It's above a 2.
It's better than a 2.
It's enough to graduate. They did give
See that, guys? He has all those talents, but he was a bum at school. Right.
me the same diploma everyone else got. And this is the crazy part. Berkeley, arguably the finest public institution in America, let me into graduate school. And like a lot of men, I quite frankly, I just didn't get my act together until I was about 25, 26. And
Well, it makes sense. Guys, I'm going to tell you something. What he means by get your act together means sacrifice your life for women. When they say society, they mean women, right? Get to the grind as young as possible. And the thing is, I'm letting you guys know now that it's your pre-25 years that you live your best life. So this guy's saying, sacrifice your youth, sacrifice the best years of your life. Will you have the best memories to just grind away to be what he is, some sad sack guy in his middle age, or in his case, his old age, and just perpetuate that. That's what he means when he says, get your act together.
kind of inspired an upward spiral of prosperity. And I worry now that what we're trying to do in America is identify a super class of freakishly remarkable young kids who play lacrosse and find time to build wells or have platforms helping the mental health of kids all over the world, or are the children of rich kids, and turn them into billionaires. And I think America has lost the script. I think the whole point of America is to give unremarkable kids a shot at being remarkable or doing something important. And I feel like I had that infrastructure. And I worry that in today's world.
Again, so why are young men failing? If he's mentioning the institutions, isn't he, guys? Isn't he?
A lot of that infrastructure has been crammed into the kids who already demonstrate they're remarkable at the age of 18.
Yeah, there's a couple places I'd like to go with that, but just...
Well, universities do want to invest with people who have potential. That's true, right?
One point is sort of the idea of
Well, they don't really, because they give women free rides. Mostly, a lot of these women joining universities or getting quotas aren't remarkable themselves, are they?
Development and grace. Because to me, when you tell that story, I don't think you're unremarkable, but it does sound like you were a kid who needed time and space.
No. You are wrong, dude. This guy is completely unremarkable. That's why he had to become a scammer to get by. He couldn't gain the status he has by actually providing society with something positive. He's not capable of this. He's a loser.
An opportunity that wasn't there at age 16 or 18 and ended up being there. So just talk about that for a minute. Like, is the big difference sort of the space that society allows between the ages of 15 and 30 for people to screw up or find themselves? Is that a big change that's disadvantaged men?
I would argue the primary education system is biased against boys. Boys are...
There you go. Okay, then why do you say boys are failing? Right? When something's being done to them.
Twice as likely to be suspended. And once a boy is suspended twice, he's probably not going to college. Think about the way we approach what we ask for students in school. Sit still, be a pleaser, raise your hand. You just described the activities that come more easily to a girl. Even
I disagree. Because you know something? What do you see on the internet? What do you see on YouTube? You see a bunch of young girls acting up and causing fights. So he's just categorically wrong. You see on YouTube, high school girls fighting at lunch. She's a savage after fighting 4 or 5 girls, right? Girls Fight Part 1. So this girls are like meek little people who just mind their business and don't start trouble. It's propaganda, guys.
Push a pencil around, ask questions. Our prefrontal cortex is 18 months behind a girl's.
No, again, I'm glad Shield for Men pointed this out. That's a myth. He's telling a lie. Galloway, you were a liar. You're an evil liar because your lies are to attack young men who haven't done anything to you personally.
So, and then you have a kid who, quite frankly, may be not ready for college, and the traditional on-ramps to a middle-class life, a lot of those on-ramps have been closed. You know, we all knew that kid in high school. He wasn't going to go to college, but he could fix your mom's car. And there was wood shop, auto shop, metal shop. Those have gone away. They've been replaced with computer science and Mandarin courses. And we've all decided as parents that if our kid can make
I've taken shop. It was useless. You don't need shop in school. What you do is, if you really want to, you skip school, go to grade 10 tops, then go and enter the trades. If you really want to learn them. And also notice he's basically saying, the trades are blue collar, working class men, working class, it's only for men. If this guy's the equalist he tries to claim he is, why doesn't he tell girls to do the same? Right? Notice the trades, they're not pushed towards the girls, are they? Because that's menial tasks are for us subhumans.
$80,000 a year at the age of 19 installing energy efficient HVAC heaters that somehow you failed if they don't end up at MIT. So we kind of have this one path of success.
Well, you ought to know. You felt the same way. You had a great job packing shelves and it wasn't good enough for you. It wasn't high status enough for you. You wouldn't have your wife, Galloway, if you stayed stacking shelves. She would bypass you. So it wasn't good enough for you. But then he's going to talk about guys getting into the trades because we know all the tail that plumbers get.
That's been driven into families, and there's a certain amount of shame. And then you have my industry, which has embraced this bullshit rejectionist LVMH strategy of artificially constraining supply such that we can brag that we turn away 90% of our applicants.
Your industry being higher ed.
Yeah, it's morally corrupt. Dartmouth has an $8 billion endowment, lets in 1,100 kids a year. They could let in 11,000. It's in the middle of nowhere. They have the infrastructure. They have the money. And by the way, there would not be any degradation in the quality of those freshmen. But once people have a degree or a housing permit or a house, and this is the virus that infects America, they pull up the gates behind them because it makes their degree and their house worth more.
Well, that's just common sense, dude, right? It is wrong, right? But that people behave that way everywhere, right?
How many times have you heard someone, Ross, say, I would never get into the college I went to if I applied now?
I hear that occasionally as a parent of younger teenagers.
And what that means is your daughter's not getting in. And we have to flip the script.
Who says daughter? Why'd you mention her? I thought this was about boys. Who says your daughter's not going in? They have quotas for women. She could be a double-digit IQ girl and she might get in anyway.
But maybe he does go, or she go to college for 1 or 2 years, borrows a lot of money, decides it's not for them, drops out. And what is one of the few forms of debt that is not dischargeable in bankruptcy? Student debt. They drop out and this debt haunts them the rest of their lives. In addition, the transfer.
What he's leaving out is if this guy's daughter got debt, you know what women do? They usually shack up with a guy. They'll actually select a guy. They wouldn't because he offers to pay off their debt. Women have safety nets built in. Guys are willing to pay off women's debt for them. And women know this. That's why they don't feel bad about racking it up. In the past, the husband was he was accountable for the debt of his wife. Women have lived for generations without having to worry about debt, if not of the entire human history. It's always some guy who is responsible or decide to bail them out.
Of wealth could reasonably called a transfer from the rich and the middle class, or the poor and the middle class to the rich. But more than anything, the transfer has really been from the young to the old. Who owns homes and stocks? People our age. Who rents and makes their money from current income and wages? Young people.
Right. But so those are things, though.
So you're the problem then. Why don't you make a video about people your own age then? Saying we are the problem. Right.
Student loans, cost of housing, and so on, right? Those affect men and women both, right? Both men and women
100%.
Now we're talking about men, but then he makes it gender neutral, right? Trying to take boys and men's victimhood and spread it to women. That's disgusting. This guy speaking is actually more of a cretin than Galloway because he's smug, right? Galloway has that puppy dog in the rain look, right? I suspect he actually hates having to grift like he does. But the guy speaking, he loves it.
going into debt. Both men and women are struggling.
Hey, all you look at some guys. You think this roly-poly guy without the jaw, you think he isn't married? Of course he is. He's high status nothing. He's where he's at, right? He's got a wife.
To buy homes. But on the question of men in particular, you mentioned earlier going to the Democratic convention and hearing sort of people talking about all kinds of identity groups and their struggles and not talking about men. I think it's very clear from the perspective of people at the Democratic convention why they're thinking that way. They listen to your story where you say, I was lucky to be born a white heterosexual man in,
No, it's not about him telling stories. They just don't like men. Period. And all those guys of non-white color, all the men of color, they have the exact same stories as us white guys. So don't even bother.
1960s America, and they say, damn right, white heterosexual men had all kinds of unfair advantages.
Really? So how do gay men have disadvantages when it comes to the job market? I want to know. Like, if you're a white guy who's bisexual, how were you held back from the job market?
They were propped up in various ways by what gets called patriarchy.
Yep.
Those advantages have gone away.
So patriarchy props men up, right? So patriarchy ships men to war and makes us providers. Right.
Okay. And now men are struggling, right? But, didn't everyone else have to struggle for hundreds and hundreds of years? Why can't men deal with it? I'm curious.
See, this is what you get, guys, right? People have struggled for 100 years. You're a liar, jawless man. Because even in the past, when people struggled, women were always pampered by the men. Well, that's the wrong term I'm looking for. But men took the brunt of it, always.
I'm curious how much of what you experienced, the advantages you feel like you experienced growing up, are connected to unfair advantages, sexism, and so on. And what isn't? Like, what is the thing you can pull out of the 60s and 70s and say, this is still something?
Sexism is real, and only men suffer it. Not just now, always.
We can have in a more egalitarian America.
That is 100% fair. And when it's very easy as a younger man to credit your grit and your character for your success and blame the market for your failures. And I didn't.
See, these liars always contradict themselves. He just got through saying that teachers downmark boys in schools. So how are the institutions not to blame? Notice there's always this back and forth, right? The seesawing action. If you're telling the truth, you don't contradict yourselves.
Really recognized until I was in my 40s. I raised hundreds of millions of dollars for my startups in the 90s, and it didn't dawn on me that there weren't any gay people or non-whites or women raising money from venture capitalists.
Who told you that? Proof that no gay men were doing it. If you're a white man and you happen to be gay, how are you not having the same advantages? See, this is total bullshit from this guy. Total bullshit.
The question is, should a 19-year-old male being raised by a single mother pay the penalty for my privilege? Because things have changed dramatically. It's just,
why is he being raised by a single mother? Right? And at 19, you should be living your life, guys. Just worrying about the grind. Wait until you're after, beyond 25, okay?
it's no longer, the advantages I had just are no longer nearly as distinct. And maybe there's even some disadvantage to being.
So again, notice that the advantages he had don't exist anymore. But guys, they blame the institutions instead of themselves. The contradictions abound.
Young male. And just going back to, I want to touch on what you said, that the economic challenges facing young people face men and women. 100% true. But this is the
No, it doesn't face men and women. Because if it did, you wouldn't be talking about men having issues. They don't. People look after women.
bottom line, and I don't think we like to admit this. Beyonce could work at Kentucky Fried Chicken and marry Jay-Z. The opposite is not true.
There you go. There it is in a nutshell, right? He's talking about hypergamy, right? A good-looking woman can be snatched up with a man with money. And men don't have that advantage, right?
Young women are disproportionately and unfairly.
So why should men blame themselves for women's mating selections? Galloway, please answer that.
Evaluated on their aesthetics. Young men are disproportionately and unfairly evaluated on their economic viability.
No, women aren't unfairly. Being valued just for your looks alone, huge advantage. You don't have to do anything. You're just born with it.
Young men get much, if not most, of their identity from their professional or economic success or lack thereof. So while I agree with you, and I think the solutions should be focused or gender neutral, focused on lifting up all young people, it is.
No, it shouldn't be. It's just, Jesus, this man. So men are having problems. Let's make this gender neutral. Let's help out the people who don't need help just because they're female.
Disproportionately negatively impacted young men.
But then maybe they can't be gender neutral. I mean, I think part of why you're an interesting figure, right, is that you make a lot of arguments that are right now sort of seen as conservative and conservative coded arguments. A lot of things that you say.
He is a conservative. And most women are conservative too when it comes to gender dynamics. No job guy. Whatever your name is.
About the struggles of men are things that you hear from conservative writers, conservative thinkers.
I call him no jaw guy because all you lookism guys think that ugly men can't get the woman. This guy, I bet, has a wife.
And sort of the manosphere in their crudest form, right?
Yeah, there you go. Always bring up the manosphere and Andrew Tate as a piñata. And it's the crudest form, right? Right.
And
they're trying to discredit any young guy bringing up his issues and pushing against their evil narrative.
As I watch you, I feel like you have these views and you're trying to stay liberal. that. I mean, maybe that's unfair, but that's what I see in Scott Galloway. But it seems like
He's just another loser. What's his name? Peterson. Galloway's just the next Peterson.
what you're describing is a landscape where there's some set of advantages that men used to have that you can just say
No, we've never had any advantages. Never. There's never been an advantage men had over women. Even our upper body strength just translates into working for them. A horse is stronger than a man, but who pulls the plow and lives in the stables?
unfair, and it's good that they're gone. But then at the same time, when you say, look, men...
It's good that men, if they had any advantages, it's good that they're gone, right? No advantages for men ever. Well, we never had any. But the point is, this guy doesn't even want men to have advantages.
Need more time to develop. Male teenagers are just the weaker sex in educational settings compared to women and so on, right? It does seem like there's...
No, they aren't, you liar. Again, there's no lag in brain development. And Galloway just said earlier in your own podcast that boys are downgraded. So they're not weaker.
There's certain things that your theory needs to favor that would be sort of pro-male in a particular way, and in a way that would, by their critics on the left, get called the return of patriarchy or something like that. What do you think about that?
So helping guys out at all is patriarchy, right?
It's a really fair point. And to be fair, the far right saw the problem first. They realized that something was wrong in Mudville with young men, and they saw them first. The problem was their answer was to take women and non-whites back to the 50s. And some of the initial voices that filled the void.
What he means is equal the playing field. Stop giving favoritism to people who don't deserve it. So notice how he frames it.
It were really negative voices, just cosplaying empathy, but what they really were was just thinly veiled misogyny.
You should keep your mouth shut. If anyone is cosplaying empathy, it's this puppy dog in the rain-faced cretin.
And a form of masculinity that was coursing our discourse. And the first thing I always feel, my land acknowledgement is the following. Women don't have an obligation to service men romantically, sexually. This is not women's fault.
No, dude. Gaslighting is women's fault. Not being open. Like women are open at times and says, I won't deal with a man who doesn't make any money. Right? But then they'll turn around and lie, just like you. That is their fault. If women were 100% true with men would actually have the means to consider if they really want to deal with women or not. And by the way, everyone, they're not obligated to service men, but men are obligated to service women, right? That's what his whole shtick is, right? A good man, he breaks up fights. He's a little servant boy. So this guy, he's a sexist. You're a sexist, Scott Galloway.
Greatest victories in America and society generally is that women are thriving. And men should take pride in that and be the afterburners for our sisters and our mothers and our daughters.
There you go. You just be servants, right? So women aren't obligated to give us anything, but we should just be happy that we're sacrificing ourselves for them. Totally unequal or unequal, right? Scott Galloway, you're a sexist and you're vile.
or success. The far left's answer to this problem, quite frankly,
Notice
is
he uses far all the time. Far right, far left. Why don't you just mention what the right and left think, right? Because whenever he talks, everyone's an extremist, right? Where's the middle ground?
you don't have problems, you are the problem. You've had a 3,000 year head start. Deal with it. Now deal with the crap we've been dealing with
Screw
for
you. Men dying and traveling the seas and going under the mines, fighting wars for women. That is not a head start. That is slavery, you scum.
forever. And quite frankly, what's the solution for young men from the left? Act more like a woman. And I don't think that's helpful either. So I think there has to be something in the middle.
You see, he hates feminine men. Hey, all you gay guys, right? You've been held back, but this guy doesn't like your kind. All you effeminate gay men, he hates your guts. That's not the right answer. But sorry, he's in your corner, right? You gay men have been held back, but he's against effeminate men. Can you see? Liars always contradict themselves, always.
And I think it's very progressive to talk about empathy and lifting up groups.
But in your story, in education, right, alone,
Yep.
like it sounds like you do.
So it's all empathy, but men, you are owed nothing, and you should celebrate when women, have easy lives. That's empathy.
Need something that is just effectively a different track for men. And maybe in the way, we talk about this a lot with women in terms of how do you make the workplace compatible with pregnancy and motherhood. And it seems like you're saying
you don't. Let me tell you something, guys. Two things. One, men are almost never allowed paternity leave. Right. So paternity leave is just to let women off the hook. And two, single women who are trying to climb the ladder get resentful at women who are given a boost when they take off time to look after their child. The average woman does not like it when women are given this advantage. If you're a single woman and you're trying to get a promotion, and the promotion is given to a woman who's been a year off looking after a child, you get resentful. And notice these guys here, they will not call that woman out.
in the same way, we need to think about how to make the modern educational system compatible with boys whose brains develop more slowly.
No, shut up, you cretin. Boys' brains don't develop slowly. He got through at the beginning saying boys are downmarked. So the answer is to do something about the prejudiced and biased in schools.
And the need for men to have an extra 5 years in effect? Is that the argument?
Let's go to solutions. I believe we should redshirt kindergartners. I think boys should start kindergarten at 6. They're 18 months behind. Okay, let's true up the cognitive abilities. Start them at 6, girls start at 5.
Do you hear that? So boys, according to this liar, are falling behind. So let's make them fall behind even more. Wouldn't the answer be to start them earlier? Say, let's start the boys at 4 while the girls are 5. And then by the time the girls get up, the boys will catch up with them. That would still be misinterest anyway. But still, the fact that he's saying this, he's trying to slow boys down even more. This man hates little boys. He doesn't have empathy. He's a disgusting subhuman.
Let's do a better job. Let's raise wages for teachers and do a better job of recruiting men into primary schools. Simple stuff like pay for after-school sports coaching, which is disproportionately men.
Really? Well, that's not very egalitarian of you. So you're admitting that mostly boys are interested in sports. Wow. I thought you guys were all for, hey, women's sports are being kept down. They're not fueled enough, right? I bet if he was asked that, he would do a 180. Again, his answers are all about, get boys doing like sports and becoming plumbers, right? Be the workhorses of society.
Compensate.
Was this guy a workhorse? No, he became a teacher. He became a white collar guy who built his status. But for all of the younger guys, you guys can just become grimy little workhorses, working with your hands.
Them for those extra hours. I think mandatory national service would be hugely beneficial for.
Holy shit. He's for conscription. There you go. When you guys want to go to school, forget school. Put you to war. Die in war. That's what this cretin wants.
Patriotism for America and for young men and women. A lot of young men, quite frankly, they just.
Patriotism should freaking die. The world is getting far too connected. Frankly, patriotism has just made people who aren't, it just makes subhuman guys think they're special, right?
Just lack purpose.
So you're taking, just stay on that idea for a
Sure.
second. So the idea is you're taking, let's say, somewhere in the 18 to 22-year-old zone, whether it's a guy who isn't ready to go to college or a guy who's graduating college or hasn't finished, it doesn't have purpose, and you're saying, okay.
Notice purpose is a male thing. Women don't need purpose. Their purpose is just to live their lives, enjoy themselves.
You need this extra 2 years of development and you need something to do in that time.
Anything from being in the military to being smoke jumpers to elder care to senior care to donating time at a no-kill animal shelter. I think America needs a lot of talented young people who understand technology to get out there and spend time with.
Again, young people, why using gender-neutral terms? Right? This is about men.
Other Americans. I think.
But that's it. You just gave a nice gender-neutral sounding description, right?
Well, there you go. Why is he doing that? Why are you happy over this? I thought it was about us guys.
But it is, if it's the men you're worried about, right? It's, I think in your story it's the smoke jumpers, right? Like,
you see the C sign? Like, they want to talk about men as victims, and then they immediately want to erase the male victimhood and make it about women as well.
it's the problem you're trying to solve is more likely to be
Nurses,
solved by the
senior
smoke
care.
jumpers than the no-kill animal shelter, right? Is that fair?
What I'm trying to do,
I'm not trying to make you.
I understand,
sort of,
but
he's this cretin here. He doesn't want to go to war, but he's for making guys go to war. Don't go to the no-kill animal shelters. I mean, that's for women, right?
I'm trying to come up with a series of solutions that are more politically palatable that have a chance of being enacted. And I also want to recognize that a lot of the things I talk about.
No, he recognizes that if he stood up for men in a real way, he would lose his status. And people wouldn't go for it. At least not people like him. So he wants to appeal to the powers that be that are actually against men. Here's some bullshit that you can try and claim, give to men and give to boys and say, we're on your side. When we're not, we're against you. Right?
About our challenges for young women as well as young men. But I think
there are no challenges for young women. Women live life on cheat mode, not on easy mode, cheat mode. Women have no issues as women. None.
There's a series of programs to lift up young people that would disproportionately help young men because a lot of the benefits have been taken away and have been especially detrimental to young men.
Well, there you go. There you go. Again, guys, he's always contradicting themselves. He's trying to give, credit to, men's victimhood on one hand, taking away on another, saying women have these problems too, right?
Why don't you like the term toxic masculinity?
I don't think there's any such thing. I think there's coarseness and cruelty and criminal behavior. But I think masculinity is strength, service.
Again, it's service, guys. That's what masculinity is. I'm not a masculine man. because I'm not a servant to anybody.
Stoicism, demonstrating strengths and skills such that you can.
And I'm not stoic either. I cry out when I'm in pain. I let people know you're doing wrong to me.
Establish resources and strengths such that you can then protect.
Establish resources, right? Why would you need to? Because this guy wants a woman around. And that's how you bribe her, with resources, right? I'd rather be single, you subhuman. I'm better than you, Galloway. I'm better than you.
Others. I think it's optimizing for service, not for attention. And unfortunately, a lot of criminal, violent, psychopathic behavior has been conflated with masculinity. I don't think there's any such thing, just as I don't think there's any such thing.
Well, he's right about that. We all know recently the Lindsay Clancy case has shown just how much psychopathic women are out there, and they're married and they have children. I've seen women with children go and support Lindsay Galloway, who murdered her 3 children. They're supporting her. He said, yeah, we're women. We're in charge. If we want to murder our children, we're allowed.
It's toxic femininity.
But so I don't like how the phrase toxic masculinity gets used. But I think it can be a useful phrase because of what it implies.
I hate how it's used, but I like how it's used. You see, liars will always contradict themselves. The second part is the truthful part. I'm going to say what he does. He doesn't like himself being called toxic, but he still wants it for other men. That's the translation.
That's right. It implies that there are vices that maybe are not exclusive to men, but are disproportionately male. Men are more violent than women and so on, right?
That's a total lie, too. We've debunked that over and over again. Right. Again, the Lindsay case where she murdered her own children because she was tired of looking after them. Infanticide and child abuse and elderly abuse is disproportionately female committed. So this guy's just wrong, and he's a liar.
But then that there are also virtues that are, again, not unique to men, but are sort of associated with masculinity in certain.
There you go again. See, they can't help themselves. There are virtues that men have, but not all men, right? Like women are involved there too, right?
In ways. Now, I think you were just describing some of them, and in the book you have the 3 Ps.
So women are there too, but women aren't meant to serve, right?
To me, it's your description of virtuous masculinity. So tell me what the 3 Ps are.
So provider.
He doesn't expect that for women. So why did this liar say that, it's not exclusive to women?
I think a decent goal for a young man starting his career is, in a capitalist society, just acknowledge the way the world is, and that if you want an app.
Funny mentions capitalism. So all these young guys who want socialism, they're on the right track, aren't they? Aren't they, Galloway?
Sense of anxiety, if you want health care, if you want to be attractive to a mate.
There you go. He mentioned again, if you want to be attractive to a mate, you got to be a provider. You got to work for that woman. That's a sexist view, Galloway.
You're going to need to have a plan to make yourself economically viable. And that might be getting a trades license, getting a bachelor's of arts.
But not a trades license, dude. That might allow you to take care of yourself. You didn't enter the trades. You became a white-collar scam artist. That's how you got your wife. So your advice is shit to start with, right? You don't live your own advice because you know it wouldn't work.
Just working real hard, just whatever it might be, that you're going to need a plan to be economically viable. And by the way, that plan will change, but you have a responsibility to develop some sense of a plan for economic viability in a capitalist society.
So you guys, you have a responsibility. And he admits that the institutions are against you. So Galloway, shouldn't we be attacking the institutions and their sexism and their discrimination? No, because he supports that. This bum complained how the older generation pulls up the ladder, but that's what he's doing it to these young guys, to this generation.
Once you develop a series of strengths, it can be character, it can be kindness, it can be economic power. The next move is to protection.
So if it's kindness, you're saying that that's a masculine trait, so you're saying women don't have that? And of course, protection, in other words, serve women. Again. When he says protection, he means attack other men at women's behest.
It's a tragedy to me that women don't feel safe on the New York subway. Women shouldn't cross the street when they see a group of young men. They should cross the street to be around young men.
Screw you. That's her own prejudice. That's her sexism. This is women getting disgusted at men that don't like men. So here this scumbag is telling men that you're dangerous. Oh, sorry, some other man is dangerous, not you, right? So you've got to gear yourself up to attack those men. Women love blood, They love the idea of young men just beating on one another. They tend to select the winners too, right? So this is the life that this sexist wants for you guys. Working and fighting. Working and fighting.
Your job is to protect. Who breaks up fights at bars? Big, strong men. Who starts fights? Insecure people who don't like themselves.
Well, dude, you're full of crap. Because you're suggesting that big, strong men aren't insecure. You're the most insecure man ever. How tall are you? You look tall to me. Right? Who's more insecure than you?
So I think strength immediately moves to protection. And then the third thing, and
servitude.
I get more pushback on this, is procreation.
Not on this show, you won't, Scott. Don't worry.
Well, I think we need to.
Yes, he will. Yes, he is, dude. So these clowns, I shouldn't call them clowns. They're not stupid. They're evil. These evil guys will claim they're all about procreation, but they're cock blockers. So they aren't about procreation.
Stop demonizing and start celebrating young men's horniness. It makes them better men. It makes them want to shower. It makes them want to have an economic.
You hear that, guys? If you're not horny, you won't shower. Look, the only reason the guy won't shower if he's depressed, right? The guy's got the cart before the horse. It's all like you're not showering, so you're not getting the girl, as opposed to you're not getting the girl, so you gave up showering. But guys haven't given up showering, right? This is a complete insult from the member of the gender KKK. That's what you are. It's like when the Nazis said how the Jews were dirty and they didn't shower. Exact same thing.
Plan. It makes them want to have girlfriends so they can figure out a way to behave around other women. It makes you
see, men just don't know how to behave, right? Women's coarse behavior around men, that's not an issue, right? But men, look, everyone, all you guys listening, civilization is male built, not women built, not female built. Any true culture and art, great art, is male created. Women have had their chances through the eons. They have failed. Like Mr. Pink and Yellow, I'm going to quote him. Without men, women would be screeching like chimpanzees and shitting in their hands.
Kinder. My first girlfriend told me that if I didn't stop smoking pot every night, she was going to stop having sex with me. And guess what? I stopped smoking pot.
Well, see, So all you're saying is your woman dominated you, right? How many women smoke pot? So when they smoke, it's all right. But when you smoke, it's wrong. So this is a harmless pleasure you had. Smoking cannabis is no worse than having a drink of alcohol. Did your girlfriend like her drinks? I bet she did. So you were allowed to have a drink of beer, right? Because she loves her drinks. Right? So this isn't civilizing you. It's just controlling you. This is coercion and control. So that's what you're bragging up, you discriminatory, sexist douchebag. Jeez. Guys, this is riling me up to no end. To no end.
But I hate, Ross, I hate the incel movement. I think it is such bullshit.
There is no incel movement. There is no movement. Incel is what people are called. And Galloway, if you stood up for men, in actuality, you would be called an incel. Incel just means a man who doesn't know his place. Married men get called incel. It's just an N-word for men.
This notion that women have such high standards that they can never be successful. Well, welcome to the work week, boss. For 99% of history, 99% of men have been involuntarily celibate for 99% of the time. There are a few men that wouldn't rather be doing something else more right now than having sex.
Well, there you go, right? So you're admitting hypergamy, right? Right? So these guys, they've been deselected. That's not up to them, dude. That's not up to them. So you're blaming the victim. You're victim blaming.
And it's a motivator for us to be better men. No man has the right to reproduce.
So do you hear that? Do you hear that, guys? We don't have a right for that. I mean, this is angering me to no end. Oh my God. So work to pay women to have sex with you. So that's prostitution. So this guy's all for prostitution. To be honest, all gender and sex between men and women is prostitution. He'd deny it. He'll deny it out of one mouth and then support it on the other side.
You got to work for it. And I hate this movement where men throw up a BS excuse and they abdicate and they stop putting in the time and the effort and the energy.
See that? Women are the ones who do the selection, but he's going to blame guys. All right? You just aren't working hard enough, dude. Galloway, dude, the reason why you quit your shelving job is because you know that it's all relational. What's the proper word that I'm looking for? You can't just make money. You've got to make more money by comparison to the next man. If women go for the highest earners, that guarantees that most guys are not going to get any money, get any women. They're not going to get enough money to bribe them. So working harder doesn't do anything. It might switch to who's going to be the winner and loser, but there's guaranteed to be losers. So you're just saying that men should work harder and waste more of their lives to be losers. And when you won, how'd you win? You became a white-collar scam artist. You did not do anything honest with your life. You did not add anything to society. You've done nothing good with your life. You're essentially a criminal, and that's how you got your woman. But you're all for men being empathetic and working for society.
To be better men that are more attractive to women who understandably are raising their standards because they're no longer economically indentured to men and they're excelling. And so they have the right to have higher standards.
So
So hypergamy is good, according to this guy. Hypergamy is evil, man. It's maladaptive. Doesn't help out the human society whatsoever. Women should be 100% shamed for their hypergamy. Women should be told to settle. So this Galloway cretin, he's for stopping solutions.
The incel movement and everything associated with it is pretty much by definition a movement for men who feel like they're not succeeding generally. For men
Well, if they want to get the girl, they aren't succeeding. It's not feeling.
who are succeeding, right? Who are sort of attractive in the dating pool. If you're telling them, go out, have sex, be horny, whatever, right, whatever else, how do you get that to be connected to protection and providing rather than just being a different P, right, which is predatory, right? And I don't mean, to be clear, I don't mean like...
See these scumbags, these cockblockers? Predatory. So a guy who just goes out and gets laid, he's a predator, right? You know, if women spread their legs for men owe women. That's what they're saying. A guy who gets it for free, which he does, it never does, by the way. But if a woman puts up for a guy and he doesn't pay enough, according to them, he's predatory.
Rape and sexual assault predation.
Just
I just
being
mean
a player that's not
exactly
feeling.
Just treating women badly in a dating market that benefits you because all these other men are failing.
Well, there you go. He's not talking about raping that, but they're treating women badly. How are they treating women badly? They're not treating women badly. What women call those guys fuckboys. So a guy who a woman actually spreads her legs for, if he doesn't pay enough, he's a fuckboy, right? That's what they're claiming here. So these guys are jealous. These guys are jealous of men who might actually get the odd one-night stand. They're calling them predatory. They got to be like us, working like dogs all the time for little crumbs. Right?
What I would say is that one, you're talking about a minority of people, and
not all men, right? You know, as they say.
Like, well, men not doing well and struggling with their career or their romantic possibilities, I think that applies to 95% of men at some point in their life. I know it applied to me for a large portion of my life. I don't know about you.
There you go. What'd you do? You became a scammer. You became a criminal, right? That's what you did. Finally get laid. This is becoming a better person, everyone.
Yeah, but there's definitely moments in my life where I was insecure about my professional and romantic success and opportunities.
Notice he's always gearing them up. Why doesn't he just say his romantic success? He doesn't need to talk about the other. The other one is necessary for the first.
Never true for me, Scott. Never.
No.
Not even
not
once.
you, Ross.
Never.
But what I would suggest is that we need more third places. Men aren't going into work. People aren't going to church or to temple or to mosque.
What does church have to do with anything? See, this is a guy who's 100% conservative. He's far right. He talks about the far right. He is the far right. Feminism is far right. He's a male feminist. You are far right, Galloway.
There are no venues anymore for young people to fall in love with what I'll call non-curb appeal, non-Brad Pitt remarkable men. If you talk to...
This is such bullshit. Dude, you just got through this whole skit here saying that men have to work for women. So how are women going to fall in love with average-looking guys if you're not making them money? Because they're not falling in love anyway. Female selection, mate selection, has nothing to do with love. I'm going to repeat that, guys. Female mate selection has nothing to do with love. It never did.
Couples that have been together longer than 30 years, 80% of them will say one was much more interested in the other in the beginning, and it was usually the man who was much more interested. But this is what happened. I saw the way he treated his parents at church. He was funny. I liked his friends. He was great at his job. So I think that
He'll make a good servant. That's all she's saying.
the problem around mating and connection and falling in love, there's very few romances that mimic a romantic comedy where they bump into each other in a bookstore and there's this wild gaze into each other's eyes. It usually doesn't pan out that way.
Yeah, the love doesn't exist. That's right. Women don't love men. Duh.
Listen, I spent hours, weeks hanging out in bookstores, waiting for
Hoping to find Julia
that to
Roberts.
happen. Now, I was in the fantasy and science fiction section, so maybe I had chosen poorly. But yes, I agree.
Well, there you go. So, dude, he wasn't getting any either. But he's not an incel. When he was desperate and chasing, he wasn't an incel, guys. Right? He's just a good man who just didn't find that right girl. Right?
But so is the argument then that basically if you have this sort of potentially predatory male elite that's doing well, one of the best...
Why are you calling them predatory? If they're getting the girls, that doesn't make them predatory. It just means they're being selected over you.
Ways to fix that problem is to elevate the rest of the male population so they feel more pressure to be good guys.
I think you're talking about a small slice of the
Nice guys make women puke, so bug off.
dating market, because the incentive system is the following. There's research on what attracts a woman to a man as a mate or sexually. The number one thing, we don't like to talk about this, is signaling resources. Women,
Well, there you go. Then she doesn't love the man. She loves his resources.
women naturally feel they might be vulnerable during gestation. They want to protect her.
No, bug off. Again, women, Lindsay Clancy and all the women that follow her and supported her, they don't give a shit about children. The resources are for themselves, not their children. So women using men, these animals here, right here, will make excuses by saying it's really for their children.
And in a capitalist society, strength oftentimes is conflated with resources.
And again, why is he bringing up capitalists? So things are different in socialist countries, right? So he's anti-socialist, which means he doesn't want any of us guys having social programs to protect us when we're down and out. This guy's anti-male. He's actually anti-human, right? He worships women. But for men, he hates with a burning passion.
Now, the good news is you don't have to show up with a Range Rover and a Panerai, which is a good rap, but the key word in that is signal resources. So are you the guy that...
Yes, you do. Again, you were making decent money packing shelves. It wasn't good enough. So you're lying again.
that has a plan, that leaves the bar at 11 because you have work the next day, is organized, is thoughtful, disciplined, has a plan, trying to...
Only women can be irresponsible, right? So women, they can drink at the bar till 2, get drunk, miss work the next day. It's all right with them because they're always going to be selected. They have safety nets.
Better himself. That is very attractive to women. Number 2.
Again, better yourself just means make more money, gather more resources. You're not really improving as a human being. You're just improving as a servant, as a briber.
Is intelligence. And again, all of this is anthropological. The person who makes better decisions for his family, that family is more likely to survive. And the fastest way, by the way, to communicate intelligence...
Notice the women aren't held to these standards. He's with a single mother, right? She can make all the bad decisions she likes.
Intelligence is humor. And you can't tell someone to be funny, but what I tell...
The incels call it clown maxing, right? Jester maxing, right? Sense of humor. In other words, entertain me, fool. Jester, entertain me.
Men is laugh out loud. A great sense of humor is being funny, but that's hard. But it's also just laugh.
And none of that matters, dude, if you don't have the resources. Remember, resources are number one. So funny broke guy gets nothing.
Laughing out loud and laughing at yourself and not being easily offended. And
Yeah, take the abuse. Laughing at yourself. Know your place. Be humble. Yet women actually shack up with the guys who are brash and slam other people. Those guys are the ones women want to shack up with. Remember, they all talk about confidence, right? Have confidence, guys, but also be self-deprecating. Notice everything contradicts itself.
the secret weapon that women are most attracted to in a relationship is kindness.
Bullshit. Bullshit. Women get together with the thugs. It's just known. It's a known fact. Kindness makes women puke. When you show kindness as a man, you're a mark. The woman says, that guy can be used. But she really gets wet for the guy who murders other people. Remember, that's why you suggested joining the military, right?
Want someone they know that if they're vulnerable is going to be good to them. And I think young men, and I think it can be learned. I think
No, they want a man they know they can manipulate and will serve.
Kindness practice can make you kinder.
Whose job is it to teach them? Who is teaching young men the 3 Ps that you describe?
That's a good question, Galloway, right? It's supposed to be their parents, right? So if these guys are failing, doesn't that say everything about your generation, our generation, I should say?
So what's the infrastructure for healthy masculinity, productive masculinity, and loving, secure households and good men?
Where does it come from, especially in a society where there's lots of divorce, lots of men are raised without fathers? Like where does it come from for someone who's in the position you were in, right?
Divorced and without fathers. Whose fault is that? That's the mother's. That's the women's fault, isn't it?
Divorced, your father's not in the picture. How do you transmit?
Well, you said it. It comes from you and me, Ross. If you look
I was afraid of that. Yeah.
If you look at the bricks and mortar of what builds good men or not.
So this guy wasn't raised by a father, and he became a scam artist. So he's right, I guess, about that. But at the same time, most fathers are just like this cretin. They say, go to war, get your face blown off, in the desperate hopes you'll make enough status to get some woman. That's what most fathers actually do. Most fathers kick their sons out at 18. They said, sorry, you're a grown man. I don't want other men around. Shaquille O'Neal, I pointed that out in one of my videos. Shaquille O'Neal, he booted his sons out at 18 and kept his daughters around. He wanted that harem. Nothing incestual about that, by the way, everyone. But that's what he wanted.
It can be reverse engineered to a single point of failure. You know, in air disasters, they try and reverse everything to what is the single point of failure here? The single point of failure for when a boy comes off the tracks is when he loses a male role model through death, divorce, or abandonment.
Okay, then how did you make it, scam artist?
And the moment a boy loses a male role model, at that moment, he becomes more likely to be incarcerated than graduate from college.
No, this is all bullshit too, because again, having a male role model, how does that negate female teachers from marking down boys in school? It doesn't. The average father just accepts it. Says, well, whatever you're going to do, be stoic, accept it. So this is a lie. This is false. Right.
College. And what's interesting is that girls and
if he actually believes in it, he would be against single mothers. He's not. He's going to praise his single mom.
single parent homes aren't nearly as affected. They have similar rates of high school graduation, similar rates of self-harm. Now, they're more promiscuous because they're looking for male attention in the wrong places. But
in the wrong places, see? See, this guy is a cock blocker. He doesn't like the idea of some girl spreading her legs for a guy. Something that's completely harmless as long as she doesn't become pregnant. As long as she has her contraception. Society has given women all kinds of contraception. There's no excuse for her becoming pregnant. So there's nothing wrong with her being promiscuous. If anything, that spreads joy to other men. And he's against that. He's against the joy of his fellow man. And again, if fathers, the lack of fathers in a girl's life is so detrimental, how come it's only men that are suffering? Because there's safety nets for girls. They can afford to be irresponsible. They don't have to be accountable for their actions.
Generally speaking, they have the same rates of success as dual parent homes. What it ends up is that while boys are physically stronger, they're emotionally and neurologically much weaker than girls.
No, total lie. Total lie. They are not. You are a liar. If that's the case, how come you two are talking? Shouldn't there just be two women talking? Because you're such weaklings.
And even acknowledging that boys need men 5 years ago was triggering for the far left. It was what, women can't raise boys?
Yeah, see, it's the far left. Right? It's not the left. I guess there's this special left. If there's a middle left that's so good, how come they're not fixing this problem? You far right scammer. And the fact that it's triggering shows the hostility that society has for men. Now, how are you going to fix that? So you want men, male figures in children's lives, but you're totally against actually doing anything about that.
Boys, I was raised by a single immigrant mother, light of my life, but she immediately got men involved. And just
who were those men? Like, who were the most important men in your life growing up?
I still stay in contact with some of my mom's boyfriends.
Well, there you go. Some of your mom's boyfriends. So you're against promiscuity, but your mother was promiscuous. She had multiple male partners, right? And here you are bragging her up. No, she ditched her first husband, your father, who you don't even mention. We don't know his name. We don't know anything about this guy. She ditched him. Then she went through multiple men. And so it's so bad that women are promiscuous, but you met these men, none of them good enough for your mother, and they had a positive impact on you. Hey, if they were so good, why didn't you move in with one of them? Why didn't you go to your mom's boyfriend and say, you make a great father, can I live with you?
The guy across the hall who noticed that I was being raised by a single mother and used to come over with his girlfriend and say, we're going horseback riding. Do you want to come with us? I joined the Boy Scouts.
Wow. Exactly. So you're saying this man had a positive impact, not your mother.
Larry Nobler, a chemistry teacher, used to invite me over to wash his cars with his boys. I immediately
invited you to do work, right? He's training the boys to work. Yeah.
Immediately there were men involved. And unfortunately, because of, I don't know if it's Michael Jackson or the Catholic Church, there's a lot.
He didn't invite you to go to Disneyland with his boys, did he? Go help wash the car.
A lot of men in their 30s who are wonderful young men who have paternal and fraternal love to give and are reticent to express interest in mentoring a teen boy for fear they'll be suspected of something.
Well, there you go. More male hostility. What are you doing to change that? Nothing.
And so they're reticent to get involved.
I mean, there is also a dynamic, right, where it sounds like you were fortunate, but where, boys with single mothers, the boyfriends do not always treat those boys well, right?
Well, that's on the mother, isn't it? You crap. That's on the mother. That's her fault. She's the one who invited him in. If he's abusive to her son, she chases him off. This guy's mother chased off the first man, right? And had multiple boyfriends. So these women get rid of these guys whenever they want. So that's 100% the mother's fault.
Like there are dangers to boys from non-parental male mentors that aren't just about sexual abuse.
Well, the
they're also
rates
just,
of
right.
the likely sexual abuser is a step parent, right? So,
Yeah.
But what I would say is, while those examples get a lot of, as they should, outsized attention, there's a lot of good stepdads. It just comes down, it's the base beyond the economic.
My father was a stepdad. My 3 oldest sisters are half sisters to me. That's true. But then, of course, you can't have it both ways, Galloway. You can't have that cretin talking to you, saying that, strange men are dangerous to children, and then try and brag up men for children. Can't have it both ways.
Policies, primary education fixes, vocational programming, national service. The number one solve for this problem.
Not national service. If guys are serving the country, or in other words, murdering other men at war, they are not getting educated. They're not getting trained. So you're lying.
Is that if we want better men, we have to be better men. I think the outer ring of masculinity is to get involved in the life of a child that isn't yours.
One more question on...
Again, is that going to stop the systemic prejudice against boys? So you get involved with a boy, again, are you going to stop teachers from down-marking boys? Guys, he never mentions that. He's not going to do that. You're not a solution. You're a beggar. You're a scammer and a beggar. You're going to beg women to be nice to guys and join up with them and then put men into your life. If your mother didn't want a man in her life, he wasn't there. So how are you going to force? Are you going to force your mother to get a boyfriend permanently who takes care of you when you were a boy? I mean, come on, dude. You just say women don't owe men anything.
Politics and your own relationship to liberalism and progressivism, and then I have just...
There's nothing progressive about a far-right male feminist.
Couple economic questions, but on politics, like, I'm a conservative. If you tell me that we need to teach young men that they should be providers, protectors, and that they should procreate, I'm all in. But
well, you don't believe in procreation, dude. You don't believe in it. Not for men.
I know lots of people, lots of parents who don't consider themselves part of the far left, who just consider themselves sort of, normal, liberal, progressive people, who I think would just be kind of allergic to that formulation that says, oh, there's some...
Notice this is all left-right talk, right? Left-right really doesn't have anything to do with it. This is women and men. This is about the genders. That's why these cretins, that's why they have to make it about the left-right dynamic. Because they can't talk about the genders 100% without bringing women into the spotlight. They don't want to become the enemies of their betters.
Something distinctive about protection that we want to teach our sons that's maybe different from what we teach our daughters. Imagine someone who isn't on the far left, but they're just they're a Kamala Harris voter. And they're like, really? Isn't that just bringing back patriarchy, Scott?
Kamala Harris was a feminist herself.
I think it's a fair criticism.
Kamala Harris, she was all about women's issues. So why are you bringing her up?
I think one of the things I got wrong in the book was that I reverse engineered my success to having money and finding a mate. And the reality is that isn't a whole shooting match. And if I could write about the moment you write the book, you're like satisfied.
It's not the whole shooting match, but that's what I did. See these liars, they go on and on about you gotta work, you gotta grind, you gotta get your resources, and then you'll get your woman. But that's not the whole picture, right?
For 2 minutes, and then you start thinking about everything you got wrong. And social media is really good at helping you identify those things.
Really? I thought you were against social media. for guys anyway. Social media is trying to get guys on the screen every second, right? And that's bad for guys, but it worked for you, right?
I think if I were to add in some additional dimensions, it would be one, service, and two, I love the idea of the notion that Richard Reeves.
How is service any different than service? Gaining resources is just service already. Service to women. He's talking about war. He doesn't want you guys just working to death. He wants you in danger. He wants you at risk. Galloway, we all know that corpses don't get selected. If you're dead, you gain nothing. And murdering other men to get a woman into your life is just so inhuman. It's so animalistic.
The test of becoming a man isn't a religious ceremony or a birthday. It's surplus value. At what point do you create more economic?
You're that surplus value. In other words, anything you make above just getting by belongs to somebody else.
Value or tax revenue than you absorb. Are you the dude that more people complain to than you issue complaints? Do you love more people than love you? Do you protect more people than protect you? The idea.
Wow. So do you love more people than love you? So to be male, according to this douchebag, you can't be loved. Galloway, what's the point of being alive if that's our lifestyle? This Galloway guy, he's the same as the Christians who daydream about going to heaven and looking down on people burning in hell. That's their idea of heaven, by the way. The good things about heaven aren't really described other than they get to see other people suffer. That's what Galloway is.
Of getting to surplus value. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be the CEO of Goldman Sachs or be a baller and have a lot of money or date a lot or have a lot of sex. I think if I did it again, I would have focused more on service and surplus value.
But you wouldn't have Galloway because you succeeded here. If you lived your life, you do the exact same thing now. Why would you take a chance taking a path that wasn't going to guarantee you that female validation? You're a liar, and a bad one too, Galloway.
You're still trying to pull progressives towards, I guess, just a slightly less...
Feminists aren't progressives. They're regressives.
Gender interchangeable view of the sexes. I think that's...
I think 95%.
I think that's what you're trying to do.
Look, okay.
No matter what, hostile reactions you got.
Put a bunch of 8-year-old boys and 8-year-old girls in a room, put dolls and cars and Hot Wheels in a room and see what happens. And I think that talking about politics, I've advised a lot of Democratic candidates running for president. They all claim they're not running for president, but they want my views. Anyways, I think there needs to be an era of renewal, a renewal of alliances between America and Europe, a renewal of alliances between moderate Republicans and Democrats.
What's this got to do with boys' issues, men's issues? Nothing.
But the greatest alliance in history that is in most desperate need of renewal is the alliance between men and women. And I have said
there has been no alliance between men and women ever. Ever. It's been a caste system where men serve women and women treat men badly. That's why it's always been. So when he's saying go back to a time where women put on a mask and pretended they liked men and pretended they appreciated men's sacrifices, no, thank you. The pro-male collective is on a verge of true evolution for mankind. We are not going back to the past.
7.5 billion points of data to show it's the greatest.
And you can't anyway.
Alliance in history. The genders have done a great job.
It's carried us a long way so far. Yeah.
The genders have each done a great job of blaming the other for their own problems. It is
no, dude. Don't even go there. female teachers marking down helpless little boys. That is not the fault of the little boys. You lying sack. You lying sack.
Time to realize empathy is not a zero-sum game. Civil rights did not hurt white people. Gay marriage didn't hurt heteronormative marriage. Women and our society aren't going to continue to flourish if men are flailing. Let's celebrate young men.
So men's issues aren't important. It's women won't flourish. Wow, you're really on the side of men, aren't you? You woman-worshiping sack.
Way we have finally and deservedly started celebrating young women.
Okay, let's now a pessimistic economic question. I look at the...
Why would we celebrate young women? They haven't achieved anything for society. They've only leached off of society. Lindsay Clancy, is that what we're celebrating?
Data for job creation, and the American economy is creating jobs in healthcare sectors, service sectors. It's creating jobs that right now are disproportionately held by, and the people disproportionately interested in them are women. But it does seem like there is something anti-male about the trajectory of the economy. And you either need the economy to be different, or you need lots and lots of men who are willing to become nurses. And I'm just curious what you think about that as just sort of like where we're going, whatever we do with mentorship or any.
Well, that's not a bad idea. Why shouldn't men become nurses, right? Why shouldn't they have the easier jobs? But again, you guys aren't nurses. That's not how you got your women, right? A man's going to become a nurse only if he's going to be willing to be single, right? Now, notice these guys are all about Stoicism, but they're not for Stoicism when it comes to singlehood, right? If men came up, if these incel guys said, we're not incels anymore, we're just happy single men, these guys would become triggered. They would become upset. Because they'd say, oh, that's not Stoicism. That's not accepting how things are. We want you guys suffering.
Anything else, we're going to a world where the future of work is currently female coded. What do you do about that?
Well, one, that's true. And some of that is, if women make better lawyers and doctors, then they deserve the economic accoutrements of that.
They don't make better lawyers and doctors. Matter of fact, I have a video showing how a female doctor, she retired because she doesn't need the status. She doesn't need the wealth. She's married to a husband, let him work. They're not better doctors and lawyers. They're not. You're telling a bold-faced lie. They have more opportunity to become doctors and lawyers. That does not make them better.
So a couple things. One, solutions.
But the question is, like, if men right now, if there's tremendous opportunities in nursing,
right,
and men,
understood,
for that, trucks and dolls reason you just described, aren't enthusiastic about nursing, what do we do about it?
I think just as we've been successful, it's somewhat degendering leadership roles in companies, and recognize that women bring great attributes and leadership skills.
Yeah.
And
no, they don't. No, they don't.
And we've seen the number of female C executives increase dramatically over the last 20 years. We need to.
Yeah, but that's not female miners, is it? It's not female garbage men. None of these women are going into the trades. So what are you going on about?
To degender some of the healthcare. And I don't know if that's a marketing campaign or what it is.
Are you going to degender the oil rigs? Are you going to force women to go to work on the oil rigs? No, you're not. Are you? You sexist.
But it's ridiculous that in any way it's less masculine to be a nurse. I'm less sanguine as you are, less pessimistic, because I think all of the
less pessimistic. Do you see the expression on your face?
and the CapEx spend mostly tied to AI.
If you hate being the scammer that you are, why don't you just quit? Why don't you get a real job?
It's going to create a boom in vocational jobs and trades jobs, which disproportionately benefit young men.
Good. So, all right, because that was my follow-up question. What does AI mean for the economic picture for men? So say more about that. Is the AI...
Jang, this has been a long video. AI, is it good for men? Well, worry, Scott. Let's go to one story. Let's get close to the end.
worried about?
I come from a position of privilege because a lot of the things we talk about are largely assuaged or abated with money, is the reality. And look, I just
Sure, but I come from a position of privilege too, and I have a lot of kids, sons and daughters.
Well, you had a single mom, so how could you be privileged, right? Wouldn't that make you unprivileged?
And every family has temptations and issues and inherited things. And I just want to know, in the Galloway family, what do you worry about?
Oh, hands down, the phone. Biggest source of tension and anxiety. I wrote a book on big tech. I'm considered someone who understands more than your average bear about technology. The phone is the biggest source of anxiety in our household.
See, guys, get off the internet. The internet for women only. He's not going to stop his mother or any wife or whoever doing this all the time. Taking photos of themselves and shipping up, say, look how great I am. Here's my life, right? How great, right? In other words, the internet is for women only. It's for the higher caste, not for you guys.
I joke, my youngest.
How old is he?
He's 15.
Yeah.
And he's better now, but during COVID,
when did he get a phone?
Way too early. Way too early. I screwed up. And
you see, he screwed up. You see, my son, this is what these cretins are all about. This is what they think of their sons. Hey, Galloway, did you stop the teachers from downmarking your son? No, you didn't. They're female. They can abuse him all they like. But you're going to stop him from getting into the internet. You know something? He might see the manosphere and say, wow, they have some good points, right? Maybe I should start thinking about myself as a human being instead of being dad's little go boy.
During COVID, he developed device addiction. And he's, sometimes, I won't say which son, but one of them would fake stomach problems to go in the bathroom to be on TikTok and lock the door. And I jokingly say I would bang on the door and say, start masturbating and get out of there.
Yeah, you're humiliating your son. I mean, that's what a lot of fathers are anyway. We got to keep cretins from you away from children.
Look, the phone, the biggest challenge facing my kids is addiction from godlike.
Do you have any daughters? Because I notice if he does, he's not against keeping them off TikTok, is he? Right?
Technology that's tested 1 billion times a day, that has connected shareholder value to sequestering you from the key relationships in your life. The most encouraging thing, or one of the most encouraging things.
Key relationships in your life. Dude, why would your sons want to talk to you? All right, I'm ending it here. I'm not doing the last 2 minutes or whatever. Galloway, you're disgusting, subhuman scammer. You're a leech to society. You bash your fellow man. You work against their best interest. You write your books to sell instead of getting a real job. You live off the sorrows of other men. You are a leech. It's time to detach the leech. We'll end it here.